I, 29F, had been with my partner, 30M, for over 6 years when everything fell apart. Our story began when we first started dating back in my senior year of college. We were young, naive, and completely infatuated with each other. There was this belief that nothing could ever tear us apart, that our love was bulletproof, like we were living in our own little bubble of dreams. Everything seemed so effortless. We lived in the same city at the time, and the world felt manageable. We had our favorite coffee shop that we would visit almost every Sunday, sipping lattes as we talked about everything and nothing. Our weekends were filled with lazy days and movie nights, ordering takeout from our go-to spots, and doing the same simple things over and over again, which made life feel so safe, predictable, and cozy. But as with everything in life, that perfect little bubble of comfort didn't last forever. About 6 months into our relationship, life threw its first real challenge our way. He lost his job, and suddenly everything started to shift. The weight of rent and bills grew heavier, and after much deliberation, he made the tough decision to move back home across the country to figure things out. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I remember feeling completely devastated, the thought of being apart from him suddenly unbearable. I had never imagined that we'd be thousands of miles apart, our everyday routine disrupted in a blink of an eye. But even though it felt like the end of the world, I also wasn't ready to give up my own life to follow him across the country. We made a promise to each other though, no matter how hard it got, we'd make the long-distance relationship work. And for a while, we really did try. We called and texted constantly, each conversation a small lifeline to the other. We'd send little care packages, plan visits whenever we could, and make the best of what felt like a distant dream. I focused on my career and tried to build my own life, one that I was happy with, but always with the hope of sharing it with him. Then came COVID, and everything got even harder. The world was thrown into chaos, travel restrictions, quarantines, and the uncertainty of when we'd be able to see each other again. The pandemic added a level of stress and isolation that neither of us had anticipated, but we found ways to keep our connection strong. We still had our virtual movie nights, kept sending care packages, and counted down the days until we could hold each other again. And when travel restrictions finally eased, we made up for lost time by taking trips together, visiting places that had always been on our dream list. I even started traveling to his city almost every week for a full year because of my job. It felt like a sign that we could do anything if we just held on tight enough. Then, toward the end of the pandemic, he got a new job in his hometown, and things began to change. I had already been feeling the weight of the long-distance relationship for so long that I was desperate for more. I wanted us to finally be in the same place, to build a life together, not just one that was built on scattered phone calls and occasional visits. So, in less than 3 months, I made a decision that, in hindsight, would turn out to be one of the biggest of my life. I found a new job that came with relocation benefits, sold my condo, packed up everything I had, and moved across the country to be with him. At the time, I didn't realize just how huge a decision that was. I was leaving behind my hometown, my family, my friends, and even the career network I had spent years building. I was stepping into his world, a world that was different from mine in so many ways. I convinced myself that love was all about sacrifice, that this was the next step in our relationship. After surviving years of distance, I believed that moving here, building a life with him in his city, would make us stronger. We moved into an apartment together, and started blending our lives in ways we never had before. I even brought my cat along, hoping that this would be the home we had dreamed of, the place we'd built together after so many lonely nights apart. For the first year, things seemed great. We hosted dinner parties, explored the city, and finally felt like a true couple, not one split between different time zones and areas. Then, one day, while we were out at the mall, he casually mentioned looking at engagement rings. My heart skipped a beat. It felt like the natural next step. Over the following months, we had more conversations about our future, discussing wedding plans and the life we wanted to build together. It seemed like everything was finally coming together, just like we had always talked about. Around the same time, we planned an unrelated trip to Europe. That's where he proposed, and in that moment, I thought everything was perfect. I couldn't imagine a better way for our love story to unfold. But now, looking back, I think that proposal was his OSH*T moment. Something shifted after that, and suddenly, he started bringing up issues in our relationship that had never been an issue before. Complaints, doubts, things I had never heard him express in the years we had been together. His words were a shock to me. As far as I could tell, nothing about me had changed. Our life was still solid. We had been living together for over a year. Our careers were stable. We had a solid group of friends, and we were even hosting people at our place. We were making a home. But the moment things became real for him, he panicked. In hindsight, I think he wasn't ready to settle down. I was his first serious girlfriend, and I don't think he fully understood what it meant to commit to someone for life. About 6 months after the proposal, he went on a 3-week work trip to Asia. I joined him for the first week, but once I left, he took part in a group tour and met a solo female traveler. Apparently, after the tour ended, the two of them spent half a day together, just the two of them. When he came back, I had no idea any of this had happened. But soon, I started noticing subtle changes. He began making late-night Facebook calls, something that had never happened before. At first, he never mentioned her, and I didn't think much of it until one night, I checked his location. He had told me he was at the gym, but his location said otherwise. That was the moment everything clicked. I tried calling him on Facebook Messenger, and instead of ringing, I got the message. "This user is already on a call." I confronted him immediately. I asked to read their messages, and he gave me this half-hearted excuse that since we'd been having problems, his mind had started to wander. When I read the messages, they seemed innocent enough, nothing overtly inappropriate, just friendly chat. But deep down, I knew what was really going on. I told him flat out, "You know your feelings for her aren't just friendly. If you don't stop talking to her, this isn't okay." He promised he would cut contact. For the next 9 months, we tried to make it work. We went to therapy, had difficult conversations, and honestly, we both made an effort. But slowly, he started to shut down. Every time we tried to talk, his response was always, "I can't do this." That turned into, "I need a break." And eventually, "I want to break up." Looking back, I should have left sooner. But instead I stayed clinging to the hope that things could be fixed, even while he was already mentally checked out. At some point he started talking to her again, though I think it happened when he suggested that we continue living together but stop speaking to each other. I agreed, thinking it would help, but of course, it only made things worse. After supposedly cutting contact for 9 months, he told me one week that he had feelings for her. A week later he told me, "I want to do something for myself for once," and admitted that he wanted to pursue those feelings. I knew then that I had a choice, either walk away with my dignity intact, or stay and lose every bit of self-respect I had left. I chose to walk away. "Let's break up," I said. He moved back to his parents' house, and for the next 2 months, we handled the logistics of separating our lives. But less than 2 weeks after the breakup was official, I saw that his guy friends had followed her on Instagram. Then, I found out that in less than 2 months, he had flown back to Asia to see her. Not long after, they made their relationship Instagram official. The whole thing was revolting. In the end, I'm relieved that I'm no longer with someone of such low character. My only regret is that I didn't leave sooner. But I've learned so much through all of this, about protecting my independence, recognizing power imbalances before they spiral, and most importantly, that I am worthy of someone who truly values me.